The rain battered the windows of Dad's old Victorian house, each drop a reminder of the storm brewing inside me. I stood in the living room, staring at my sister Claire, her smug smile slicing through my heart like a knife. She'd just told me, with a voice dripping in false sympathy, that I'd been cut out of Dad's will completely. "You're kidding," I whispered, my hands trembling. Claire, 5 years my senior, leaned back in Dad's favorite leather chair, her manicured nails tapping the armrest. "It's what Dad wanted, Emily. He knew you'd squander it. I'm the responsible one." Responsible. The word stung. I was 30, a single mother scraping by as a freelance graphic designer, while Claire, with her corporate job and perfect husband, always played the golden child. But Dad? He'd loved us both, hadn't he? I thought of his warm hugs, his late-night talks about dreams and courage, his promise that family was everything. How could he do this to me? The lawyer, Mr. Grayson, adjusted his glasses and slid a document across the table. "It's all here, Emily. Claire inherits the house, the savings, everything." His voice was clinical, but his eyes held a flicker of pity. I scanned the will, my vision blurring. Dad's signature stared back, unmistakable, yet impossible. He'd been sick for months, barely able to speak in his final days. When had he changed this? Claire stood, smoothing her designer blazer. "I'll take care of the estate, Em. Don't worry. You can still visit." Her condescension burned. Visit? This was my home, too, where we'd grown up, where Mom's laughter still echoed in the halls, where Dad taught me to sketch in the attic. Now it was hers alone. I stumbled out into the rain, my daughter Lily waiting in the car. At 6, she didn't understand why Mommy was crying, but she hugged me anyway, her tiny arms my only anchor. "It's okay, Mommy," she said, her voice muffled against my coat. But it wasn't. Claire had taken everything. Our history, our future. I drove home to our cramped apartment, the weight of betrayal crushing me. How could Dad let this happen? That night, I couldn't sleep. Memories of Dad flooded me. His crooked smile, his stories about his travels as a young man, his insistence that I chase my art despite the struggle. He'd always believed in me, even when Claire mocked my starving artist life. I tossed in bed, questions gnawing at me. Why hadn't he told me about the will? Why hadn't I been there when he signed it? He'd been in hospice, surrounded by Claire and her husband, Mark. Had they pressured him? The next morning, I called Mr. Grayson. "I need to see Dad's things," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "His papers, his letters, anything he left behind." Grayson hesitated, then agreed to meet me at the house. Claire wasn't there, thank God, but her presence lingered in the redecorated living room. New curtains, her style, erasing Mom's touch. I ignored the pang and headed to Dad's study. The room smelled of old books and his cologne, a time capsule of comfort. I rifled through drawers, finding nothing but bills and receipts. Then, under a stack of journals, I spotted a small, locked box. My heart raced. Dad had always kept his most personal things locked away, a habit from his Navy days. I didn't have the key, but I knew where he hid spares, behind the loose baseboard in the attic. I climbed the creaky stairs, Lily trailing behind, clutching her stuffed bunny. The attic was dusty, untouched since Dad's illness. I pried the baseboard loose, and there it was, a tiny key, glinting in the dim light. Back in the study, I opened the box. Inside was a single envelope, addressed to me in Dad's shaky handwriting. My breath caught. "Emily, my heart," it read on the front. I tore it open, hands shaking. The letter was dated a week before Dad's death, written in his frail scrawl. "My dearest Emily," it began, "if you're reading this, I'm gone, and Claire has likely shown her true colors." My eyes burned as I read on. Dad wrote of his love for both of us, but how Claire had grown greedy, manipulating him in his weakest moments. He'd never changed his will. The document Grayson showed me was a forgery, orchestrated by Claire to secure the inheritance. Tears spilled as I read his final wish, for me to fight for what was rightfully mine. "You're stronger than you know," he wrote. "Don't let her steal your light." I clutched the letter, anger and hope surging. Claire thought she'd won, but Dad had left me a weapon, his truth. I looked at Lily, playing quietly in the corner, and vowed to reclaim our future. The letter felt like a lifeline, but it also lit a fire in me. Claire had crossed a line, forging Dad's will, betraying his trust, and stealing from me and Lily. I sat in Dad's study, the envelope crinkling in my hands, and planned my next move. Confronting Claire directly would be pointless. She'd deny everything. Her charm as slick as ever. I needed proof, something undeniable to expose her. I called Grayson again, my voice firm. I have evidence the will was forged, I said, keeping Dad's letter a secret for now. He sounded skeptical but agreed to review any documents I could provide. I spent the day digging through Dad's study, searching for anything to corroborate the letter. Old bank statements, emails, even Claire's texts to Dad, anything that might show her influence over him. Lily helped in her own way, stacking papers neatly as I worked. "Is this for Grandpa?" she asked, her big eyes curious. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "We're making sure Grandpa's wishes come true, sweetheart." She smiled, unaware of the stakes, and I envied her innocence. By evening, I found a notarized copy of Dad's original will, dated a year before his death. It split the estate equally between Claire and me, with a trust for Lily's education. My heart soared. Here was proof, but it wasn't enough. Claire's forgery was meticulous, and I needed to show intent. I remembered Dad's old laptop, stored in the attic. If Claire had communicated with anyone about the forgery, it might be there. The laptop was password protected, but I knew Dad's habits. After a few tries, Lily Bug, my nickname for my daughter, it unlocked. His email was a goldmine. Buried in a folder labeled Personal, I found messages between Claire and Mark, her husband, discussing convincing Dad to revise the will. One email, sent months ago, chilled me. "He's too weak to argue. Just get the lawyer to draft it, and I'll handle the rest." Claire's words, cold and calculated. I printed the emails, my hands shaking with rage. How could she? Dad had loved her, trusted her. I thought of all the times she'd belittled me, calling me irresponsible, unworthy. This wasn't just about money. It was about erasing me from our family's legacy. I wouldn't let her win. The next day, I met Grayson at his office, armed with the letter, the original will, and the emails. His face paled as he read. "This is serious, Emily," he said, rubbing his temples. "If these are authentic, Claire could face legal consequences." I nodded, my resolve stealing. "I want justice for me and Dad." Grayson promised to investigate, but warned it could take weeks. I couldn't wait that long. Claire was already moving to sell the house. I drove to her pristine suburban home, the letter burning a hole in my purse. She answered the door, her smile faltering when she saw me. "Emily, what's this about?" I held up the letter. "Dad's real wishes." "You lied, Claire. You forged his will." Her eyes widened, but she recovered quickly, laughing. "You're delusional. Dad chose me. Accept it." Her dismissal fueled my anger, but I stayed calm. "Grayson's looking into it. The truth will come out." She slammed the door, but I heard her shouting at Mark inside. "Good. Let her panic." Back home, I tucked Lily into bed, her questions about Grandpa tugging at my heart. "He loved you so much," I whispered, kissing her forehead. As she slept, I pored over the emails again, noticing a name, Victor, a lawyer friend of Mark's. Had he helped with the forgery? I spent the next few days tracking Victor down. His office was in a sleek downtown building, all glass and steel. Posing as a potential client, I got a meeting. He was smug, dismissive, but when I mentioned Dad's estate, his demeanor shifted. "I don't discuss past cases," he snapped, ushering me out. His nervousness was a clue. He was involved. That night, I wrote everything down, piecing together Claire's plan. She'd exploited Dad's illness, manipulated his trust, and used Mark and Victor to execute the forgery. But Dad's letter was my trump card, his voice from beyond the grave. I just needed to play it right. Victor's reaction haunted me. His unease confirmed he was part of Claire's scheme, but I needed hard evidence linking him to the forged will. I couldn't afford a private investigator, so I turned to Dad's old Navy buddy, Tom, a retired detective with a knack for finding dirt. Over coffee, I showed him the emails and Dad's letter. His weathered face softened. "Your dad was a good man, Emily. I'll help you." Tom suggested checking Victor's public records, business filings, court cases, anything tying him to Claire or Mark. Meanwhile, I kept tabs on Claire. She was moving fast, listing the house for sale and liquidating Dad's savings. Each update from the realtor felt like a punch. That house held my childhood, Dad's garden, Mom's piano, the attic where I dreamed of being an artist. Claire was erasing it all. Tom called a few days later. Victor's got a history of shady deals, he said. He's been disciplined for ethics violations. And get this, his firm handled a trust for Mark's company last year. The connection was thin but promising. Tom offered to tell Victor, see if he met with Claire or Mark. I agreed, though guilt gnawed at me. Was I becoming as sneaky as my sister? While Tom worked, I focused on Lily. She'd started asking why we couldn't visit Grandpa's house anymore. Aunt Claire says it's hers now, she said, her voice small. I hugged her, promising we'd fix it. That night, I sketched her sleeping face, the act calming my nerves. Dad always said art was my strength. Maybe it could guide me now. Tom's next call was a breakthrough. He'd followed Victor to a meeting with Mark at a downtown bar. Using his old cop tricks, Tom recorded their conversation. Claire's freaking out about Emily, Mark had said, voice low. She found something, a letter. Victor's reply was damning. Tell her to stay calm. The will's airtight unless they find the notary's copy. My heart raced. They knew about the original will. I met Tom at his cluttered apartment, where he played the recording. It wasn't enough to convict Claire, but it was leverage. I called Grayson, updating him on Victor's involvement. He was cautious but intrigued. If we can prove the notary was coerced or bribed, the forged will collapses, he said. He agreed to subpoena Victor's records, but warned me to stay quiet. Claire couldn't know how close I was. Back home, I found a voicemail from Claire. Emily, let's talk, she said, her tone syrupy. I don't want bad blood. I didn't trust her, but I agreed to meet at a cafe. She arrived looking polished, but her eyes were nervous. I'll give you a cut of the estate, she offered, stirring her latte. Just drop this nonsense about the will. I stared, stunned. Was she bribing me? No, I said, standing. This isn't about money. It's about Dad. Her face hardened, and she leaned in. You'll regret this, Emily. Her threat sent a chill through me, but I walked away, clutching Dad's letter in my pocket like a talisman. Claire was scared, and that gave me power. I spent the next day with Lily, trying to keep normalcy for her sake. We baked cookies, her laughter a brief escape from the chaos. But my mind was on the fight. Grayson called that evening. Victor's records showed payments from Mark's company, suspiciously timed with Dad's final months. It wasn't proof of forgery, but it was close. We need the notary, Grayson said. Find them, and we've got her. I remembered the notary's name from the original will, Margaret Hale. A quick search found her, a retired clerk living an hour away. I drove to her small cottage, heart pounding. Margaret was kind but guarded. When I mentioned Dad's will, her face fell. I notarized the original, she said. But Claire came later, with a new one. I refused to sign it. Something felt off. My pulse quickened. Did she pressure you? Margaret nodded. She offered money. I said no, but I heard she found someone else. Margaret's testimony was the key. I thanked her, promising to keep her safe. Driving home, I felt Dad's presence, his letter burning in my mind. Claire's house of cards was crumbling, and I was ready to push. Margaret's words were a lifeline, but I needed her to testify. I called Grayson, who arranged for her to give a sworn statement. This could invalidate the forged will, he said, his voice tinged with excitement. But Claire's lawyer will fight dirty. Be ready. I was, more than ever. Claire had underestimated me, thinking I'd crumble. She didn't know the fire Dad's letter had ignited. I kept the letter hidden, copying it for Grayson but locking the original in a safe deposit box. It was my insurance, Dad's voice preserved in ink. Meanwhile, Claire's actions grew bolder. She'd hired movers to empty Dad's house, claiming she needed to prepare it for sale. I drove there, heart sinking as I saw furniture stacked in a truck. The piano, Mom's piano, was gone. I confronted the movers, demanding to know where it was. Sold, one said, shrugging. Fury surged, but I held it together for Lily, who was with me, clinging to my hand. Mommy, why are they taking Grandpa's stuff? She asked. I knelt, forcing a smile. We're going to fix this, baby. Inside, I was breaking. Claire wasn't just stealing money. She was erasing our family. Tom called with more news. He'd tracked the notary Claire used for the forged will, a man named Paul Carter, known for bending rules for cash. Tom's contacts confirmed Carter had a history of shady notarizations. "He's your weak link," Tom said. "Lean on him, and he'll crack." I thanked Tom, my mind racing. If Carter admitted to falsifying the will, Claire's plan would collapse. I found Carter's address, a rundown apartment in the city. He was a nervous man, sweating when I mentioned Claire. "I don't know anything," he stammered, but his eyes betrayed him. I held up Dad's letter, not letting him read it, but letting its weight sink in. "This proves Claire forged the will. Testify, or you're going down with her." He paled, promising to cooperate if I kept his name quiet. I didn't trust him, but it was a start. Grayson filed a motion to challenge the will, citing fraud. Claire was served papers, and her calls flooded my phone. "You're making a mistake," she hissed in one voicemail. "I'll ruin you." I saved every message, building my case. Her desperation was showing, and it fueled me. But doubt crept in. What if she outmaneuvered me? She had money, connections, and no conscience. To clear my head, I took Lily to the park. Watching her swing, I thought of Dad's words, "You're stronger than you know." I wasn't just fighting for me. I was fighting for Lily, for our future. That night, I sketched a portrait of Dad from memory, his kind eyes grounding me. The act steadied my nerves, reminding me who I was. Grayson called with an update. Carter had agreed to testify, confirming Claire paid him to notarize the forged will. Margaret's statement corroborated the original's authenticity. The court date was set for next month, but Claire wasn't slowing down. She'd frozen Dad's accounts, claiming estate management. I couldn't access funds to pay my rent, and panic set in. Was this her plan, to starve me out? I reached out to an old friend, Sarah, a lawyer who offered pro bono help. She reviewed my evidence, her jaw dropping. "Emily, this is airtight. Claire's done." Sarah helped me file for an injunction to stop Claire's asset sales. The judge granted it, halting the house sale. Claire's fury was palpable. She showed up at my apartment, banging on the door. "You think you've won?" she shouted. "You're nothing." Lily hid behind me, scared. I stood tall, channeling Dad's strength. "Get out, Claire. This ends in court." She left, but her venom lingered. I hugged Lily, promising her safety. That night, I read Dad's letter again, his words a shield against Claire's hate. The fight was far from over, but I had allies: Grayson, Sarah, Tom, and Dad's truth. Claire's empire was cracking, and I was ready to bring it down. The injunction hit Claire hard. She stopped calling, but I knew she was plotting. Sarah warned me to expect retaliation. Claire's lawyer was notorious for digging up dirt. I had none to hide, but the thought of her targeting Lily terrified me. I kept my daughter close, avoiding Claire's usual haunts. The court date loomed, and tension coiled in my chest like a spring. Grayson prepped me for trial. "Stick to the facts," he said. "The letter, the emails, Carter's testimony, they're enough." I nodded, but fear gnawed at me. Claire was a master manipulator, always one step ahead. What if she'd forged more documents or bribed someone else? I pushed the thought aside, focusing on Dad's words, "Don't let her steal your light." Tom kept digging, uncovering a paper trail of payments from Mark to Carter. It wasn't just the will. Claire had funneled Dad's money into offshore accounts. The scale of her greed shocked me. She wasn't just stealing my share. She was looting everything Dad had built. I felt sick, but it strengthened my resolve. This wasn't just my fight. It was for Dad's legacy. Lily sensed the tension, drawing pictures of our family. Me, her, Grandpa. "Will Aunt Claire be mad forever?" she asked. I hugged her, unsure how to answer. "We're doing what's right, sweetheart." I tucked her drawings away, a reminder of what I was fighting for. That night, I dreamed of Dad, his voice clear. "Keep going, Emily." The trial began on a gray morning, the courtroom cold and imposing. Claire sat across from me, her face a mask of calm. Her lawyer, a sharp-eyed man named Reynolds, grilled me first. "Isn't it true you resented your sister's success?" he asked, smirking. I kept my cool, answering honestly. "I love my sister. I just want Dad's wishes honored." Grayson presented our evidence: Dad's letter, the original will, Margaret's statement, and Carter's testimony. Carter fidgeted on the stand, admitting Claire paid him $10,000 to notarize the fake will. The courtroom buzzed, and Claire's composure cracked. She whispered furiously to Reynolds. I caught her eye, and for the first time, she looked scared. Reynolds fought back, claiming Dad was coerced into writing the letter by me. It was a desperate lie, but it planted doubt. Grayson countered with the emails between Claire and Mark, showing their plan. The judge, a stern woman with piercing eyes, listened intently. I held my breath, praying she saw the truth. After a grueling day, the judge adjourned for a week to review the evidence. I left the courthouse, exhausted but hopeful. Sarah met me outside, optimistic. Claire's case is weak, she said. You've got this. But Claire's glare as she passed me said otherwise. She wasn't done fighting. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. A man's voice, low and threatening, said, "Drop the case, or your kid gets hurt." My blood ran cold. I hung up, checking on Lily, who was asleep. Was this Claire's doing? I called Tom, who traced the number to a burner phone. She's playing dirty, he said. Stay vigilant. I barely slept, keeping Lily home from school. Sarah arranged for a police patrol near my apartment, but fear lingered. I reread Dad's letter, his words anchoring me. You're stronger than you know. I had to be, for Lily, for Dad. I met with Grayson, sharing the threat. He urged me to stay focused. The truth is on your side, he said. By week's end, Claire's desperation showed. She offered a settlement, half the estate, no court. I refused. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about justice. The trial resumed, and Grayson called a surprise witness, Mark's former assistant, who'd overheard Claire plotting the forgery. Her testimony was damning, and Claire's face went white. The tide was turning, and I felt Dad's presence stronger than ever. The assistant's testimony was a bombshell. She described Claire's late-night calls with Mark, planning to secure the estate before Dad died. The courtroom was silent, every word landing like a hammer. Claire's lawyer, Reynolds, tried to discredit her, but the assistant held firm, her voice steady. I glanced at Claire. She was unraveling, her hands twisting in her lap. Grayson leaned in. We've got her, Emily. I nodded, but my heart pounded. The threatening call still haunted me, and I worried about Lily's safety. I'd sent her to stay with Sarah's parents, a kind couple in the suburbs, but the distance felt like a betrayal. I needed this trial over, for her sake. The judge called for closing arguments. Grayson was masterful, painting Claire as a greedy manipulator who betrayed her dying father. Reynolds countered, accusing me of fabricating the letter out of jealousy. It was a weak defense, but I saw a few jurors hesitate. Doubt was Claire's last weapon, and she wielded it well. After closing, the judge set a date for the verdict. I left the courthouse, the weight of waiting crushing me. At home, I found a package on my doorstep, no return address. Inside was a photo of Lily at the park, taken days ago. My stomach dropped. A note read, "Back off." I called Tom, who suspected Mark's involvement. He's protecting Claire, Tom said. We need to catch him. Tom set up surveillance near Claire's house, hoping to link Mark to the threats. Meanwhile, I met with Sarah to strengthen our case. She suggested a forensic document analyst to verify Dad's letter. The analyst confirmed its authenticity, noting the ink and paper matched Dad's final days. It was another nail in Claire's coffin. I tried to keep life normal for Lily, calling her daily. When can I come home, Mommy? She asked, her voice breaking my heart. Soon, baby, I promised, fighting tears. I sketched her face again, pouring my love into every line. Art was my refuge, Dad's gift to me, and it kept me sane. Tom's surveillance paid off. He caught Mark meeting a known fixer, discussing scaring Emily off. The evidence was thin, no direct link to the photo, but it was enough to rattle Claire. Grayson filed for a restraining order against Mark, citing the threat. The judge granted it, and Mark's absence from Claire's side weakened her. The verdict day arrived, and I sat in court, clutching Dad's letter in my pocket. Claire looked haggard, her confidence gone. The judge's voice was steady as she ruled. The will presented by Claire Thompson is invalid due to evidence of fraud. The courtroom erupted, and I gasped, tears streaming. Claire's head dropped, her empire shattered. The judge reinstated Dad's original will, splitting the estate equally. I'd won. Dad's truth had prevailed. But Claire's glare as she left promised retribution. I didn't care. I had the house, the savings, and Lily's future. Grayson hugged me, and Sarah cheered. "You did it, Emily," she said. I smiled, feeling Dad's pride. That night, I brought Lily home. She ran to me, her arms wide. "Is Grandpa happy now?" she asked. I nodded, showing her Dad's letter. "He's watching us, sweetheart." We sat in our apartment, the future brighter but not safe. Claire was down, but not out. I knew she'd come for me again. I locked the letter away, its words etched in my heart. Dad had given me strength, and I'd use it to protect our family. The house was ours again, but more importantly, so was our legacy. I sketched Lily sleeping, her face peaceful, and whispered, "We're okay, Dad." For the first time in months, I believed it. The verdict was a victory, but peace felt fragile. Claire vanished after the trial, leaving only a curt email. "This isn't over." I moved back into Dad's house, its familiar creaks a comfort, but her threat lingered. Lily ran through the halls, her laughter filling the emptiness, yet I kept the doors locked, my eyes on the windows. Grayson helped me secure the estate, transferring funds and titles. The savings were enough to pay off my debts and fund Lily's college one day. I found Mom's piano in a storage unit. Claire hadn't sold it, just hidden it. Bringing it home felt like reclaiming a piece of my heart. I played a few notes, remembering Mom's lessons, and Lily clapped, begging to learn. Tom kept tabs on Claire and Mark. They'd moved to a smaller house, their lifestyle downsized. Tom suspected they were planning something, but without evidence, I could only stay vigilant. Sarah suggested therapy to process the betrayal, and I started sessions, unpacking years of sibling rivalry. Claire had always envied my bond with Dad, I realized, and her greed was her way of proving she was better. One afternoon, I found a box in the attic labeled Emily's Art. Inside were my childhood sketches, saved by Dad. A note in his handwriting read, "Your talent is your legacy." Tears fell as I showed Lily, promising to teach her to draw. Art had carried me through this fight, just as Dad knew it would. Weeks later, Tom called with news. Claire and Mark were under investigation for tax fraud, unrelated to the will. My evidence had tipped off authorities, and their financial web was unraveling. I felt no joy, only relief. Claire's choices had caught up with her, and I could finally breathe. I renovated Dad's study, turning it into an art studio. Lily and I painted there, her giggles mixing with my memories of Dad. One evening, as we worked, she asked, "Did Grandpa know you'd win?" I smiled, touching his letter, now framed on the wall. "He did, baby. He always believed in me." The house felt alive again, filled with our laughter and Mom's music. I started freelancing full-time, my art gaining traction. Clients loved my story, single mom fights for justice, and commissions poured in. Lily's school hosted an art show, and her drawing of Grandpa won first place. I cried, feeling Dad's pride. Claire never contacted me again, but I heard she'd divorced Mark and moved away. I hoped she'd find peace, but I didn't dwell on her. My focus was Lily, our home, and the future Dad had fought for. His letter was my guide, a reminder that love and truth outlast greed. One night, I sat in the garden, sketching the stars. Dad had loved this spot, telling stories of his Navy adventures. I felt him there, his warmth wrapping around me. "We did it, Dad," I whispered. The wind stirred, carrying my words, and I knew he heard. Lily joined me, her hand in mine, and we watched the sky, our family whole again.